Would you want to live someplace called Leisure World? All right, let's hear it. This is the real story with Adam and Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian,
And I'm Sherry Hutchens.
and we talk about all things real estate, mainly for our clients, some for our colleagues, and really just because we like hanging out with each other. All right, Sherry, as we get started this week, what's going on the market?
What's going on in the market? It's a holiday week. It's supposed to be the time when it slows down and everybody kind of takes it easy, but that hasn't been the case this week for us. We closed two escrows late last week and we put somebody into contract yesterday at a Rossmore property.
Yes.
So it doesn't seem like a holiday week for us.
No, no, it doesn't. It's interesting because this buyer that we got into contract in Rossmore, it's actually her second contract because she had a contingent offer and one of the contingencies wasn't met, and so
Yep.
she had to go keep looking. And we found her another house, and she seems really excited about it.
Yeah, and we got it at a good price because of things that are going on out at Rossmore. Properties are sitting on the market for 80, 90 days, and that seems to be more the norm than the exception. And this one was priced much higher, and we got it for much lower, and she could not be happier.
Yeah, you could just feel the stress melt off of her shoulders when we told
Yep.
her
Yep.
her home in that her longtime home is on the market and went into contract. And so she knew she only had a limited time to figure out where she was going to move to. And she had plenty of time. Her listing agent gave her, wrote into her purchase contract that
Yep.
space. But it's not a done deal till it's a done deal. And she experienced that once already. So it's
Yeah.
nice to get her back into contract.
Yeah.
I don't know whether people really have an accurate perception about Rossmore. Maybe you could give a brief description of it so our listeners have an idea.
Yeah. Rossmore is I was going to say retirement
Oh no,
community.
they like the word active adult community.
Active adult community. And as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I think it used to be called Leisure World,
Yeah,
which sounds like some resort down in Florida or something where people, like the Cocoon movie or something
you
like
got to
that.
wear leisure suits in the leisure world, like matching exercise outfits. You can hear the polyester pants, nylon pants.
Yep.
As they
Double
all
knit
no,
polyester was probably in style when Rossmore was built.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Rossmore is a community within Walnut Creek. It has a Walnut Creek address, but it's within a gate, a security gate. There's 6,700 homes there and about 8,000 residents. And you have to be 55 or older to live there. If you're a couple, one person has to be 55 or older. And it has seven clubhouses. My understanding, and you can correct me if I've got my information wrong, is that the property was owned by someone named Stanley Dollar. And that's a big piece of land that he must have owned. Trying to remember how many acres it is. It's a big, big property. If you go through the gate and drive all the way to the end of the property, it can take you 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not a little community. But it's got seven clubhouses. It's got all kinds of activities. It's got a fairly new fitness center, state of the art fitness center, clubs, organizations. It's got, if you want to, it's got actually two golf courses. Um, and it has movie night on Friday nights. I mean, there's something for everybody to do if they want to do it.
I think one of the misconceptions that I encounter most often when people are talking about Rossmore is they don't really get that it's really is an active adult community.
Yeah.
And they're doing a little marketing piece by saying that, but the majority of people are still working when they move into Rossmore.
Yep. Yep.
And I think the average age of someone that moves in is about 62. Obviously the residents live there longer, so the average age is older than that. But
Yep.
it people don't move there as an option for, say, assisted living. There's no assisted living in Rossmore. These are
No.
fully independent adults. I qualify to live there. In fact,
Yep.
there's times when I think I'd like to live there. Because I don't like doing landscape maintenance. And, one of the best things about living in Rossmore is that somebody else does all the landscaping. I mean, they manicure it really well. They're mindful of things like having drought tolerant landscaping, with the exception of the golf course, which is absolutely not
No,
drought
not even
resistant.
close.
but they keep it up and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, one of the complaints about Rossmore is that the HOA dues, or what they call the monthly coupon, because everything has a different word in Rossmore,
Yes.
is very high. Most of them are over $1,000 a month now. But in exchange for that, you get a lot. I mean, they take care of that property, every part of it. It's the only HOA that I know of that takes care of termite and dry rot in the exterior. Nobody does that anymore. They
Yeah.
can't afford to do that
Yeah.
anymore. And as you said, the landscaping is just immaculate. There is not a piece of litter or a weed anywhere in that property. And if you've got a problem, we had a problem during a walkthrough a couple of years ago, fairly serious problem. We placed a call to Rossmore, and within an hour or so, they were out there taking care of it. You get a lot for your monthly coupon, and that doesn't include, access to all the clubs and organizations and clubhouses. And I mean, they even, if you don't have a computer at the main clubhouse, you can go in, there's a computer room, and you can use a computer. If you need to talk to a psychologist or a therapist, they have that available to you. That's all part of your coupon. It's kind of an
Yeah.
amazing place.
I think the only thing that I know that there's an additional fee for is a really discounted golf course fee.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really minimal. And I think they just do that to kind of control traffic so people aren't making tee times and not showing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that there's something like 200 clubs. I mean, some of the clubs will have some fees for usage stuff, but as far as the amenities, it's all included.
Yeah.
Um,
They've got
they're
a great event center that's just a couple, I don't know when did they build that? 5, 6, 7 years ago?
yeah, not that long
And they
ago.
have speakers come in and concerts and things like that there. Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting about Rossmore is that it's been built over time. So some of the earliest units were built homes, oh, they call
Mhm.
them manors. Some of the
Mhm,
earliest
yes.
manors were built in the 60s. And then over the years, different projects have been built out. So you have these mutual, they call them mutuals, but they're
Uh-huh.
basically homeowners associations, a version of a homeowners association, and they are clustered by when things were built. So things that were built about the same time, their maintenance is similar as far as like
Mhm,
roof repairs or deck
mhm,
repairs. So
mhm,
there's all these individual associations, which can be confusing, but if you once you
mhm.
begin to learn about it, it's pretty simple. But
Yeah.
there are two mutuals that were the first two that were built that are a little bit different than the rest because their ownership style is called a co-op as
Mhm,
opposed to a condo. Can you
mhm.
talk a little bit about those differences?
Yeah, it's co-op is a form of ownership. It's like a stock mutual or stock where you own stock in the actual property, not the whole property, just your building. Say there's 4 units in a building, and you own a share of that. And people tend to get hung up on the word co-op, and they think that it's an architectural style. We'll be in a building and someone will say, is this a co-op or a condo? You can't tell when you're standing in the building inside the unit. They look just like everything else. They're owned differently.
And that's really important right now because in Rossmore, they are having some insurance issues like all of California.
Mhm.
And one
A
of
little
the
bit
things,
different out there.
yeah, it's a little bit different. So you have an overall master insurance policy that covers all of Rossmore,
Mhm.
and then each of these little mutuals has their own insurance policies. And then on an individual homeowner, you'll have essentially something like a renter's policy for covering your belongings and liability for
Yeah.
your own unit.
It's like condo insurance, or called an HO6 policy.
Yes. But right now they have not the master policy for the whole complex does not cover it for 100% replacement. So if all of Rossmore burned down, they could only rebuild, I think it's 80% of it. Well,
Mhm.
this has become a problem for lenders. Lenders are like, we want to know that our unit will be one of the 80% that's going to get rebuilt.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like that, but for simplistic terms, that's what it is. And so particularly government-backed lenders have pulled out. There have been some lenders who have come back in to loan on the condos, but they're not loaning on the co-ops.
No.
So how is that affecting co-op values right now?
Well, as I mentioned, when we got our client into contract earlier this week, or I guess it was just yesterday, she got a quote unquote bargain on that property because they're just sitting there. If you are not a cash buyer, you are not going to be buying a co-op in Rossmore at the time being, and who knows how long. I think this has been going on maybe since January, February,
Yeah, I think that
been
that's
going on for
been
a
it
considerable
really,
amount of time.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also important to mention that co-ops have a limited number of lenders anyway. When I got into the business, 20 something years ago, there was only one lender in the United States in Ohio who would loan on co-ops. Now there's a few more. But they're not loaning if Rossmore is not fully insured. And the condos are difficult too. So what it's doing is it's confining any buyers in Rossmore at the moment to cash buyers. And only about 50% of the transactions in Rossmore in a given year are cash transactions. So it's not great for property values. It's not great for sellers who want to sell. I saw a house list. Well, you and I sold a house for one of our clients maybe 4 years ago. Um, and we sold it, I think, for 500,000. And someone went in and gutted that place and redid the kitchen and the bathrooms and everything and did beautiful crown molding and millwork and new doors and new everything. They transformed that place. Came back on the market at 680, and it's been sitting there, and it is a gorgeous unit. Under normal circumstances, that property would have gone pending in 8 or 10 days.
Yeah.
It's been sitting on the market, and they just dropped the price down to 580, a
Oh my
hundred
goodness.
$1,000 price reduction. I mean, and we sold it for 500 in semi original condition. I don't think they're going to cover the amount of money that they put into it. So Rossmore's got to figure out how they're going to take care of this problem, or the sellers are just going to be up in arms. They probably already are, because their property values are plummeting.
Well, it's one of those like one hand or the other, because the alternative is to, you already said those monthly HOA fees are $1,000.
Yep.
And for people that have a fixed income, to start raising their monthly expense is not, that's a problem also. And
Mhm.
so they were trying to make a judgment call. If they want to have the 100% replacement coverage, they're going to have to
Mhm.
raise everyone's HOA
Yeah.
monthly HOA fees.
Yeah.
And so I think they were making a determination, a calculated risk that says, what are the likelihoods that all of Rossmore will burn down?
Mhm.
And the chance of that happening is not very high, for a couple different reasons.
Pretty
One,
remote.
it's a pretty big area. Two, one of the things, the way that Rossmore is designed with the golf course down the center, one of the things we know about wildfires from satellite imagery is that they don't typically jump over golf courses because they're
Mhm.
lush and green. There's not material, fire material that would burn, and they
Yeah.
tend to be fairly wide, and so
Yep.
they're able to. So the likelihood of a fire coming up from one side might burn half of, I mean, it's kind of sad to talk about, but might burn half of Rossmore, but probably will
Yeah.
get hopefully stopped at the golf course.
Yep. Yep.
And then there's other factors um, that are kind of controlling that, and just insurance in general in California is kind of out of control. I know
Yeah.
you and I have different feelings about whether we personally would live in Rossmore.
Uh-huh.
And I think what's interesting is your generation, the boomer generation. That's everybody I know that currently is living in Rossmore. My generation is just aging in. So it'll be curious to see whether do you know what generation I am?
I only know what the boomer generation is, to be honest. There's so many different names. I have no idea. If you're not a boomer, I have no idea. Are you a millennial? Are you a Gen X, Y, Z? I don't know.
See,
Tell me.
isn't that the classic boomer mentality, that it's like it's us and like, oh, the rest of the kids, right? Who cares whether you're the oldest kid or the youngest kid, that you're
Well,
just,
why does everybody have to have a label? It's like
oh,
we're just people.
okay, boomer.
Our client that we got into contract yesterday is not a boomer.
That's true.
I don't know what she is. Is she the lost gen? No, I don't
Man,
know.
she's not. I don't think she's old enough to be the silent generation, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
She's the
don't
most
either.
charming person ever, though.
Yeah, she's very sweet.
So
But yes, we do have differing opinions about living in Rossmore. I will. I am putting it in writing on video. I am never living in Rossmore.
All right. Okay. One of the things that is great about Rossmore is that there are lots of different housing types. We just
Mhm,
described ownership of co-ops and condos,
mhm,
but there are some that are smaller buildings with just 4 units that
mhm.
feel like townhomes.
Yep.
There are some that are luxury and style townhomes that are selling for 1.8, 1.9 million.
Oh, yeah.
You have some that are in newer apartment buildings that are someplace in between those two. And there's a few select single family homes in Rossmore. I think it's 65,
61.
61 single family homes. And
Yeah,
I have
not
to admit,
60, not 65, but 61. Like, who figured that out? Anyway.
those are the ones that I kind of scratch my head because I see those listed for over $2 million, and they're
Mhm.
not that big.
Yep.
And you have all the responsibilities of owning a house. And I just like, if I was gonna spend 2 million on a single family home, I'm not sure I would do it inside the gate. I mean, like my
Yep.
mentality of like I want less responsibilities, so I don't want the single family house. I want one
Yep.
of the ones that are more like a townhouse.
Yep.
One of the things that I noticed that people like, you can get a golf cart, whether you use it for golf or not, but you can zip around Rossmore in your golf cart. The speed limits are really modest in enforced in Rossmore, and so the golf cart and the streets are wide, so the places where the golf carts are often driving are between the main street and the curb, and they can get around safely. I think that would be fun. You can zip down to get some coffee or a farmer's market.
I agree. That's one thing that appeals to me is zipping around in a golf cart. So you can't do that outside the gate. There's
No,
so much traffic, you get run over, but it seems like a fun thing to do inside of Rossmore.
it
So
does. It does.
there's something for everybody out there. The pros, there's a pros and cons to living there. There are probably more pros than there are cons. There is a house for every person. If you want a small co-op that's like a little teeny apartment, old-fashioned apartment, you can live in that. If you want an updated condo with a garage farther out at the other end of the property, you can live in that. You can live in a single-family home. Um, and they even have those two buildings called the Waterford that are kind of like it almost feels like a hotel to me.
Yeah.
You go into a lobby and then you walk down a carpeted hallway. It really feels like a hotel. And that is a step before you go to assisted living, but don't want to live on your own in one of the co-ops or condos. I mean, meals are provided, housekeeping is provided, things like that. So
But
there,
no services like, no, they're not monitoring you personally in any way.
no,
There's no
it's your
medical
own
assistance.
place.
Yeah,
It's your,
if you
it's your,
need medical assistance, you're paying for a personal attendant to come in to do some of those things. But yeah,
it's a step before you go to assisted living.
yeah. And those are actually really expensive on a monthly rate because of all those meals that are provided. It's like 5 or 6 thousand a month,
Yeah.
depending upon the
Yep.
unit that you're staying in.
Yep, absolutely. The
Yeah.
other good thing about Rossmore is it is less expensive to live there than it is outside in Walnut Creek. Some of those we've sold some really nice units in there for, 4 or 5, $600,000, and they would be 8, 9, and $1 million outside of the gate in Rossmore. So um yeah, and Rossmore just takes care of everything for you.
Well, I think it's less expensive for a couple of reasons. One, I think we already talked about the co-op part of it, but also this is a classic example of lowering the buyer pool.
Mhm,
And when you are limiting your buyers to 55 plus, you
mhm.
have a smaller number of people that can buy because of the age limit. It's the only part of the fair housing law that allows any discrimination is in
Yep,
a 55 plus
senior
community.
citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then not everybody wants to live in a gated community. Some people want to live in the midst of where life is happening,
Mhm.
but for everyone that doesn't want to do that, there's a whole group of people that are like, I like being in the near peer
Yep.
community where the people that I'm living with are, similar in age to me and lifestyle. I'm not going to have a teenager blasting Pink Floyd next door. Um, not that my neighbor is blasting Pink Floyd next door to my house. I say that on one side of me, I have a older retired couple, and the only reason why they don't leave the area is because they have Kaiser and they don't want to, they don't want to start over someplace else. And then on the other side, I've got this newlywed couple that has a baby. So it's like and then I'm a recent empty nester. So we like three houses in a row. We have everybody, and I kind of like that as a community. I
Yeah.
would miss that dynamic of having multi-generation
Yeah.
around us in the way that.
You live on a great street anyway. I mean, there is a little bit of everything. It feels like a private lane almost.
Well,
Really
yeah,
sweet.
well, it is in many ways. In fact, several occasionally new people move in and they're like, why can't we put a gate at the end of our street? And I'm like, well, because it's a public street. Um, and
Why can't
but
we change
tomorrow,
the zip code and say we live in Lafayette? Oh yeah, they did
they
that
wanted
too.
to do that too. Yeah. So, well, so we're recording this on July 3rd. This is going to be published tomorrow. The 4th of July is one of the best days in my neighborhood because
Yeah.
we have a 4th of July pancake breakfast and bike parade.
Yeah.
And for the
Oh.
last 4 or 5 years, it's been in front of our house. Well, between
Oh,
us and our neighbor across the street, we're
I
in the
love that.
turnaround. And so all the kids decorate their bikes. There's ribbons and flags that are provided, and
Oh,
it. I think when we first did it, when our kids were like 2 and 4, we all envisioned that they would slowly ride their bikes down the street and then turn
uh-huh,
around and come back. And so
uh-huh.
some of the older people would get out their lawn chairs and sit in the front yard. Oh no, the kids don't understand the idea of a parade. They all think it's a race. So like the parade was, we thought it'll take 10 minutes to ride slowly to the other end of the street and come back. Like they're back in 45 seconds. They're like, no way.
Oh, I
Um,
love it. Well, you also have great Halloween on that
yes.
street.
Yeah. I don't think you get bike parades and Halloween in Rossmore. I will miss that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I had a former neighbor who since has moved out who he added the other big party for our neighborhood. He brewed his own beer. And so every other year he would host an Oktoberfest and he would serve his homemade beer. It would take him a little while to brew up enough to serve everybody, and he and his wife would dress up in authentic German Oktoberfest
Dirndl,
clothing.
Lederhosen.
Yes, actually, yeah. I mean, like the leather, whatever the suede. I mean, like not just like
Lederhosen.
yeah.
The
So
little straps and the shorts and
yeah,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
not like fabric. It's like a leather or
Oh
a
no,
suede
it's
or something.
leather or suede
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah. I just it did not look comfortable.
Or fashionable.
Yeah. Do you have any
Maybe it's
Fourth of
supposed to.
July plans other than trying to stay cool? Because it's for those
Well,
of
it's
you
supposed
not
to be like
local, it's a yeah,
190 tomorrow. Okay,
yeah,
really? It's only supposed to be like 108. But yeah, my plan is to stay cool.
yeah.
No.
Keep the windows down and turn the air conditioning on and
Yeah, I mean, I
hope
live
for the
on a
best.
really cute little circle. It's I we don't have a lot of kids on the street. It's probably people who are getting, or either older than I am or getting close to my age. And it's a great walking path. I mean, in the morning and in the evening when it cools off, everybody's out walking. Even the neighbors come through because it's a great little circuit. And the yards are kept really well, but we do not have bike races and parades and pancake breakfasts and Halloween. But it's a cute little place. So
Yeah.
yeah, the
Well,
goal is to stay cool tomorrow because it's been hot all week and
yeah.
will continue until next Tuesday to be in the hundreds.
Well, it's a little disappointing because we had this great plan to deliver pot buys to our clients. I mean, it was going to be s'mores, which is,
Yeah,
fun for 4th of July. Obviously,
yeah.
can be done any part of the summer, but we were so afraid of delivering anything with the chocolate bars to people's porches this week that it would just be chocolate syrup before they got home from work. So,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you could turn your camera and show the table where they're all stacked up over there.
Um,
No, that's okay. You don't have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I know how to do that and get the camera back where it belongs. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have 30 pot buys waiting to be delivered. So if you were expecting s'mores, which we often do this time of year, they're coming. They're just not coming until the weather cools off a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's about it for this holiday week edition of The Real Story.
Yeah,
If any of you are curious about Rossmore as a place to live, we would love to tell you more about it. Like Sherry said, it's not necessarily for everybody, but we know lots of people that
yeah,
love living there, and we
yeah.
regularly sell homes there, both to buyers and also as listing agents. And
We'd love to give you a tour.
we
There's a
would
lot
love
to
to
see out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I guess we don't have anyone to do a speed round with. At some point, we're gonna
No, but I
have to
do
ask
have a
you the
question
questions.
for you.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
if I'm a boomer, what are you? You didn't
Oh,
tell me which.
I'm Gen X.
Gen X, okay.
Yeah, like
And
they
then
couldn't come
millennial
up with
comes
anything
after
more
that?
interesting. They just said X. Yeah. So
Yeah, really. I can draw an X. Gen X and then millennials and then Gen
Z.
Z. Okay, all right. I'll try to remember that.
Yeah, the forgotten generation between the two big generations.
Yeah, I've forgotten.
Oh,
I didn't even know what your generation was. I'm sorry, I forgot that.
it won't hurt my feelings. All right, this has been the real story with Adam and Sherry. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe and refer us to your friends and family. We just
Yep.
hope this is valuable information for you, maybe a little entertaining, and we'll get our generational messages straightened out before next week.
Yep.
Thanks,
Happy 4th
everybody.
of July. Stay cool out there.
Bye.